Well, it's our great privilege this morning to welcome a very, very special guest with us this day. Some of you, I know, heard him this morning on Radio Devon, sharing some of his story, some of his adventures that he has been on over the years. And I first met Miles quite a number of years ago when I was leading a church in Derby, in the East Midlands, and Miles and his family were a part of that church. And it's been a great joy to see the way that he has retained an adventure spirit. Let me tell you something about Miles. Miles is a blind adventurer who has, since the age of 50, set numerous world records. Since the age of 50. Undertaking extreme events. Since then, he has undertaken extreme events across all 7 continents of our world in the fields of mountaineering, desert and polar ultramarathons. I didn't even know there was such a thing as an ultramarathon. I thought a marathon was crazy. Powerboat racing, scuba diving, motor racing, long distance aerobatic and supersonic flying, amongst other achievements. He's had the privilege of speaking at over 1,200 corporate events in 72 countries across the world to date. And he is here to remind us today that we too can live our dreams because the only limits in our lives are those we accept ourselves. Let's put our hands together and welcome Miles Hilton-Barber.
Well, isn't it interesting? What can God do, in a place like this? We learned just now about a lady with a diaphragm paralyzed, an ex-alcoholic. Someone said, do you believe Jesus can turn water into wine? He said, I don't know about that, but he turned beer into furniture in my house, And so what can God do with a blind man like me, Well, this is a story about he gave a blind man vision. There's a lady called Helen Keller. She was deaf and blind, and she said sight without vision is equal to blindness. Now, as I look at you, I can't see anything. I'm living in total black darkness. And I'll tell you something, I've never been as happy or fulfilled as I am today. I'm happy now as a blind man than I can see, yes. So, okay, well, here's a question. I want to share with you some very basic life principles of what God has done to turn my life around. I grew up in a country called Rhodesia, now called Zimbabwe. As a little boy growing up, nothing wrong with my eyes. I didn't know I was going to go blind. When I was 18, joined the Air Force. My dad, World War II fighter pilot. I was going to fly like my dad, but I failed my medical. Sorry, Miles, you'll never fly, never be a pilot. Eyesight not good enough. 3 years later, I got the really good news. Miles, you're going to go totally blind. It's a genetic disease. It's jumped lots of generations. Hit you and your brother Jeffrey. I was what they call disappointed, So, and my best friend came along. Miles, I've heard that terrible news. You're going to go totally blind. I think it's probably the worst thing that could happen to anybody in the whole world. And it's happened to you, Miles. And I thought, I'm so pleased you're my friend, So, have another beer. I'll go and find a gun. I'll be back in a few minutes. So anyway, so up until the age of 50, I had a victim mentality. Everybody, family, friends, society, everybody reminded me and reinforced the fact blind people can't have fun. Blind people are going to have a rubbish life, Do any of you think blindness is a good thing? No, so that's what it is. So anyway, so what turned my life around? You see, so I figured to be happy, you've got to have good things happening around. Here's a funny thing. Quality of life, your quality of life is actually not based on your current circumstances right now, but on your response. So you people with smartphones and iPhones, every now and then if you've got a computer, you plug into the computer and on the screen it says, do you want to synchronize? You know what I'm talking about? And you just say yes. Now, with life, with what's going on around you, I thought if I was blind, that meant my life was rubbish. I didn't understand that it could be raining outside, but you don't have to synchronize and have it raining in your brain. Isn't that right? So your circumstances don't have to determine your quality of life. I didn't understand that until the age of 50, and what turned my life around is my brother, Jeffrey, also totally blind. He lives in Durban in South Africa, and he built this yacht in his back garden by feel. Now, if you want a stupid hobby for a blind man, He's building a boat in the garden. I mean, what a stupid thing, you know. Who does he think he is, Noah or something? Anyway, so he launches it and it doesn't sink. And everyone said, oh, bless, built by a blind man. Oh, well done, a blind man, and it's floating, you know. So they said, what are you going to do with it? He says, I'm going to sail it from South Africa to Australia, Durban to Fremantle, all by myself, no one else on board, speech output on my navigation instruments. They said, Jeffrey, it's impossible for a blind man to cross an ocean solo. You're not just a blind man, you're a stupid blind man. But my brother said, no, not impossible, just never been done before. Listen, beautiful people, many things in your life, not impossible, you just haven't done them yet. Well, 51 days later, he got to Australia, and that turned my life around. So now I've realized that actually, you know, instead of focusing, what can a blind man do, and having a pink pity party, now I think, well, I start with my dreams, my goals, and think, how the heck can I do things differently if I'm blind? So I wanted to be a pilot, as you can remember. I was in Australia, saw when he arrived. Came back and thought, okay, I am going to be a pilot. I thought, if my eyes don't work, my ears are still working. So I had speech output on all of my flight instruments, and I fly using my ears, not my eyes. So this little microlight is what I fly. It's only 4 foot longer than that. It's as wide as the chair you're sitting on, and I've flown it at over 20,000 feet. Now, if you want to know how high, and by the way, it's totally open, so you've got a little strap around your waist, that's all you've got. If you want to know how big the M1 looks like at 20,000 feet, just lean forward a bit in your seat and imagine there's a single piece of black silk on the carpet there, and have a look and imagine, and that's the M1 at 20,000 feet, and I'm afraid of height. Anyway, so I decided, now I'm fully qualified, I thought maybe I could be a commercial pilot, so I've applied to KLM, Qantas, BA. Nobody will give me a license just because I'm blind, you know. I'm fully qualified. My last hope is Ryanair, fingers crossed, so I'm hoping. Wait, don't tell anybody. So, anyway, so I decided to fly from London to Sydney in this thing as wide as the chair, and I had to have a sighted co-pilot with me because they weren't regular. Anyway, so 4 years of planning, many things went wrong, but I never gave up believing one day I'm going to fly to Australia. So this other friend with me, finally I'm sponsored by the Standard Chartered Bank, hoping to raise a lot of money for blind children. Ready to go the night before I'm due to leave. 9 o'clock the next morning, BBC, Sky, Reuters, all going to come and see me off Biggin Hill down the road. But my co-pilot, after being with me for 4 years, has a panic attack. Bursts into tears, runs to the toilet. He's on the phone to his wife. I love you, but the children, I love the children. I'm not going to go, we're going to die, you know. And I'm banging on the door saying, is there something I should know? He says, I'm not coming. I said, why? He says, we're going to die. I said, why? You're blind. You know, I said, but I said, 4 years ago, you saw me with a white stick. Why didn't you have a panic attack then? He doesn't know. Anyway, true story. So at 10 o'clock at night, I'm on my phone thinking, who the heck can I find willing to fly all the way to Australia, leaving in the morning in a microlight with a blind pilot? And the amazing thing, I found this chap, Richard, he's a farmer who flies a microlight. He had a call at 11 o'clock at night. Richard, wife wakes him up, microlight flight in the morning. Yes, all right, to Australia with a blind pilot. Whoa, but he said yes, you know, amazing thing. Took us 55 days. When I was nearly there, when I landed in Darwin, flying over the Northern Territory, strong headwind, and so we ran out of fuel. So I had to land on the road. I got my co-pilot guiding me down, missed all the trucks, went to this little place to fill up with fuel. Here in England, if you land an aeroplane on the road, they put you in jail. In Australia, they give you beer. Whoa, sort of, you know. Anyway, so it was a lot of fun, and I landed in Sydney. It took me 55 days. And this video clip I'm running now, if we can have some volume, was what it was like landing in Australia. Here we go.
Slide 10, Sydney TV.
He is 20,000 kilometres behind him, and the world's most beautiful city is unseen beneath his wings. It doesn't matter. In his heart, Miles Hilton-Barber sees everything. Tiger! The first blind man to fly across 21 countries in an oversized hang glider.
I can smell what's growing in the fields below the crops.
He navigated with talking instruments and co-pilot Richard Meredith Hardy, who stood in at the last minute.
I got this call. Would you like to fly a microlight to Australia starting tomorrow with a blind man? And, well, what can you say, really? He said yes!
They froze over the mountains of Lebanon, nearly crashed into cliffs in Malaysia.
Pouring with rain, the engine was bellowing, trying to cope with all the water going through it. Lightning flashes ahead of us.
He risked his life to raise money for blindness programs in third world countries. Miles has also finished the world's toughest foot race, 250 kilometres across the Sahara. He's done the world's coldest marathon in Siberia, sledged 400 kilometres across the Antarctic, and he's climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
The only thing holding me back is 5 inches, and that's the distance between my ears. Attitude is what determines altitude.
He hopes Australia smells like a cold beer. Ella Callan, 7 News.
So, my life, I want to tell you people, thank you very much, thank you. Thank you. Some of you people are waiting for things out there to change, your bank balance, your health, this or that. You're waiting for other things to change. I wasted 30 years of my life waiting for things out there to change instead of recognizing that through the grace of God, you know, it's what's going on here that determines our quality of life and what we do with our lives. I've got 2 basic fears. I'm afraid of height. This is me abseiling down Table Mountain, 350-foot abseil, and I'm also claustrophobic. Diving on a wreck 100 foot down the Red Sea, I was panicking, just, learning to scuba dive in a warm swimming pool. The instructor said, Miles, you're going to have to stop hyperventilating and change what's going on in your head. You stupid idiot, you're going to drown if you carry on like that. So I said, what do I do? He said the word for fear in English, F-E-A-R. It stands for false evidence appearing real. Listen to me. In your life, false evidence appearing real, it holds you back. It may not be a fear, but it's, I can't do this for God. I could never do that. It's wrong things going on in your head. I've changed the way I think in my head. It's changed my life. Now, since the age of 50, this video clip I'm running now, some of the things I've done through the grace of God since the age of 50 starts with me flying across the English Channel in the microlight. Here we go. I'll talk you through it. So, first blind man to fly the Channel a few years ago. Crossing the Qatar desert. It's only 120 miles, but the thing I'm pulling weighs 400 pounds, and I pulled it for 3.5 days without stopping to rest or sleep. A very stupid thing to do. Wing walking, I'm afraid of height. I tried on this aerobatic Boeing Stearman, getting rid of my fear of height. Didn't work, I was very frightened. Want to be the first blind man to pull a sledge 1,200 kilometers across the South Pole. Great place to go. Flying this Dornier 3-engine float plane, got to 100 feet, banking. Behind was some VIPs from Bentley, Breitling watches. Saw a blind man at the controls. They began to vomit over their Armani suits in terror. I don't even own an Armani suit. I thought, well, it serves them right. Then had a race with a British general, bridge building stuff in the Royal Engineers in Germany. I think I beat him into the water. Then I went hot air ballooning over the Nevada desert, had a bit of a crash in high winds, blood, broken ribs. Being American, they thought we'd sue them. We just wanted to do it again. It was a great experience. Climbing Kilimanjaro.
The Barranco Wall, 600 feet of rock face.
There's certainly some dodgy sections when I have to listen very carefully to John when he tells me to keep to the right, and I may know that there's a life-threatening drop on my left. It's quite hard always to listen to the information when you're tired and you just want to get there. So we go through some dodgy places, but it's again me just utterly trusting John. I know that he's giving me good information, and I've just got to go with it and believe that I'm safe with him.
Malaysian Grand Prix circuit hold the lap record for a blind driver. You saw it last week, 120 mile an hour through the chicanes. I spun it a few times, but managed to get back on, and I haven't won the race. Didn't see the flag, but after it said, bonus, you're the winner. I said, oh, thank you. We kept the black side, the rubber side down, and it was phenomenal. We lost it on a couple of corners, but she's very, very stable, and we had to point her in the right direction a couple of times, but apart from that, we kept going the right way around, which is what it's all about. Ha ha! Tiger!
Never go driving with a blind man.
So white water rafting down the Zambezi. I got thrown out. I did 3 sets of rapids. Quite scary knowing the crocodiles are waiting in the green water for you. And then I went cage diving with great white sharks off Cape Town. I said to the man, listen, I want to touch one of those sharks, otherwise I won't believe they're there. You're just stealing money from a blind man. I nearly had my hand bitten off. My wife said, the camera, did she click? Oh, I'll go and do it again sometime. Not a big deal. flying the channel at 5,000 feet. My co-pilot looked down and said, Miles, French girls in their bikinis, let's go down low, have a good look. I said, baby, if I can't see, you can't see. We stayed high the whole time. He swore at me like a sailor's parrot. He was very, very upset, but we stayed high. Bobsleighing down the Olympic track, Lillehammer, Norway, getting up to more than 80 miles an hour in under a minute, pulling 5 Gs around 17 corners. Much more shocking and violent than you realize when you just watch it on the telly, but very good leadership development, Mark, if you want to take the guys there. My only advice, go to the toilet first. You'll love it. Scuba diving. I love diving on wrecks in the Red Sea, overcome my claustrophobia. False evidence appearing real. Skidoo racing in Norway, 150 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 mile an hour, 3.2 seconds, doing over 100 mile an hour over the ice there. And this last clip is me doing this solo kamikaze skeleton run. Do you remember someone died, Canadian Winter Olympics? Scariest thing I've ever done in my life.
Just a great experience, and I'm hoping that I can encourage other blind people to come and do this as well. Apparently a lot of people do it with their eyes shut, so it's not such a big deal. Yeah.
So, isn't that amazing? Thank you very much. Thank you. So,
Flight 15.
thank you. So listen to me. Realize this. When I went blind, I was miserable. I didn't have the confidence to walk across the street without my wife taking me. And now I'm wanting to do all these things. And the only thing that's changed has been my attitude in my head. Some of you beautiful people think you've got rubbish things going on around you and you're waiting for things out there to change. Baby, the clock is ticking. The change has to be here. What's going on between your ears? So, a few years ago, I wanted to be the first blind man to actually climb Mount Everest. I'd never done any mountaineering. I thought, well, I don't want to do all the silly training. They say first climb Oyo, Shishapangma. I don't know what those mountains were. So everyone knows Everest. Anyway, long and the short, I was in the Himalayan area doing some training. They thought I died at altitude, some silly thing. Anyway, so all the way back to Kathmandu, helicopter, all these tests in the hospital. Never climb again, it'll kill you. Wrong diagnosis, I was sure. So anyway, I went and climbed Kilimanjaro and Mont Blanc to prove it wouldn't kill me. By the way, Mont Blanc, we had 4.5 feet of snow in 5 hours. 5 climbers died. You know, we're digging sort of dead bodies out of these caves of pulmonary edemas. Anyway, but it was a lot of fun. I got home. I didn't die. Anyway, but so when I was on Kilimanjaro, I said to John, if I can't be the first blind man on the top of the world Everest, what about the first blind man on the bottom of the world's South Pole? John said, sounds good to me, my friend. So 9 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks is all it took from having that idea there to actually being on our way to Antarctica, with me having set it all up, got the sponsorship. Some people said, Miles, how will you be guided in Antarctica in blizzards and whiteouts and that catabatic wind if you can't see? I said, I don't know. We'll see what happens when we get there. And they said, that is totally irresponsible. You know, $250,000, whatever it was, the sponsorship. Surely you've got to sort out all the problems before you get there. Listen, if you wait till you've overcome all obstacles, you'll never start anything, you know. Life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. Give it a go or you'll never know. So now, you think this isn't biblical? Think about Jonathan. He was a good mate with King David. And one day, I think there were the Philistines up this cliff and they were all down the bottom. And Jonathan said to his armor bearer, let's go up there and see what God will do. Isn't that right? Climbs up there, they all flee. Anyway, so, you know, I want to tell you, God is saying to you today, get out there and let's see what we can do together, you know. But if you wait, this might go wrong, that might go wrong, you'll never do anything. So, baby, get out there. Life is such a precious gift. So, after flying to Australia, decided I wanted to fly the airplane that would have flown in the Rhodesian Air Force, Hawker Hunter. This is it. So, this here in the UK, chap called Andy Cuban, ex-Red Arrows wing pilot. Phoned him up. Andy, can I come and fly a Hawker Hunter? He said, yes, big checklist on the phone. Yes, went through all the thing. Got to be a fully qualified pilot. Yes, hurry up. So anyway, a couple of weeks later, got up with my white cigar at the car. I'm at the airport. Hello, Andy, it's Miles. I'm here. Where are you? And where have you hidden the aeroplane? He said, airplane's here, and it's a big aeroplane. And what's that stick for? I said, that's because I'm blind. So he said, you never told me on the phone you were blind. I said, I'm sure I did. He said, it was a funny conversation. You told me you were not a kind fellow, blind. So anyway, we had what you call a conversation. So here I'm at the age of 57, totally blind. When I was 18, no, you'll never fly. And here I'm spooling up this beautiful Rolls-Royce engine. Here am I doing the takeoff. Discovery Channel in Canada heard about it. They sent a television crew, and this video clip, we have some volume, was what it was like me flying this Hawker Hunter. Here we go.
Slide 22, Hunter video.
Experience on flying his ultralight. He can't even find his way into the cockpit. A quick overview of the controls and he's off.
So full of anticipation, lots of adrenaline.
3, 2, 1, now.
That's me doing the takeoff.
Woohoo! Okay, lovely sky with our common piece. This is the point. Upside down, rolling. Miles, can you fly this as well as a sighted person?
Oh, man.
You'll fly by yourself, I'm not touching. G-force. Here it comes. Ah!
Pulling 5Gs, doing a loop.
G. Relax a second. Relaxing. Good enough relief. Get it.
After a few minutes, though, the world rate starts to become a bit much.
I did the landing trying not to vomit. It's very hard to vomit and land a fighter jet at the same time.
He manages to hold himself together long enough for the plane to land.
With the voice cues, you can fly exactly as a sighted officer. Makes it right.
It was a dream come true, much more real than I thought, just quite amazing, the G-forces.
And I keep on saying to people, you can live your dreams. More and more I'm realizing that there are many sighted people in the world who are actually blind to their own ability, and I'm trying to give them vision.
So all the time I'm thinking, okay, if I can do this, God, what about, can I do that? You know, aren't you satisfied? You know, I think I've got a guardian angel, all tattered feathers, and can't you give me somebody else? No, stick with him. So anyway, so I thought, what if I can go, you know, do aerobatics? What about going supersonic? This is called in English electric lightning, place called Thunder City. Have any of you people seen the film Top Gun? Anybody not seen Top Gun? Listen, whether you're a Christian or not, if you haven't seen Top Gun, you're seriously lacking in your basic education, you know? If you haven't got into university, if you didn't see the film, I don't know how they let you in. Anyway, so I've listened to it about 30 times, my favorite film. So anyway, Cape Town, I don't normally wear dark glass, had to borrow them. Had the same television crew from the Discovery Channel in Canada. I was asking where the cameras were, and I was practicing whipping off the glasses, giving the evil eye like Tom does. Woohoo! So, and if you girls haven't noticed, I'm a lot taller than Tom as well. Anyway, so eat your heart out, crab and fish. Anyway, so my kids get embarrassed, but when you got all the props, you got to do it. So anyway, here am I climbing up into the cockpit. Tiny little cockpit, actually very claustrophobic. How am I taxiing, getting ready to go down Cape Town to the end of the runway? It's got two engines like that Hawker Hunter. So I was at the end of the runway, two full throttle afterburners, flame pouring out the back like you see in Top Gun. 90 seconds after being stationary, I was down the runway, up, and I was at 50,000 feet in a vertical climb doing Mach 1.4. I went through the sound barrier going vertical. I became the first blind pilot in world history to vomit at supersonic speed. And so, anyway, and by the way, if you don't understand how fast that is, if you think about the size of a football field, I was going from one football goalpost to the other in 0.2 of a second. 5 football fields a second. Baby, and it's only Mach 1.4. Next time I want to go Mach 2. Anyway, so I won't show you me being sick, but this video clip I'm running now is what it was like me doing the takeoff. Bit of volume there. Thanks very much. There are no limits in our life except those that we accept ourselves. And if a blind man can have the privilege of being at the controls of a supersonic fighter, you can do anything you want with your own life.
We're really accelerating. We're just passing 300 knots now, coming up the end of the runway. And we're about to go straight up. Now we're going straight up. Oh man, we're now going... Way to go!
So, absolutely wonderful. Have any of you been supersonic in a fighter jet? No. Isn't that funny? This is a blind chap, totally blind, you know. You know, it says in the Bible, you have not because you ask not. Shame on you. Knock and the door will be open, you know. Woo! Anyway, so I've also learned not to give up when things go wrong, you know. Sometimes the wheels fall off in life. Have the wheels ever fallen off in your life? Yeah. Listen, if you pass the age of 12 and you haven't broken your leg, you've had a deprived childhood, you know. That's it. So, but anyway, you got to get out there. So, anyway, after my brother sailed to Australia, I thought I'd better get fit. I was 50, done no running since I was 17, so I entered the toughest foot race in the world. 150 miles through the Sahara Desert, rucksack on your back. Someone said, blind man, you're going to get blisters on your feet. So I was putting surgical spirit, rubbing alcohol to make my skin stronger. It was working well. Went to the chemist to get some more. Didn't explain clearly what I was using it for. They gave me acetone, and I put that on my feet instead. So my feet, before the race, were worse than most runners at the end of the race. You know, any of you people had blisters before, yes? They cheeky little things. So anyway, I not only had blisters, I had a stretch fracture on my ankle. I had too much weight in a rucksack, 70-kilometer run in the High Peak Trail in Derbyshire, sports physio, x-ray, strapped it up, cracked ankle bone. Don't walk in it for 6 weeks, you'll be fine. You know, pair of crutches. 2 weeks later, I'm off into the desert. So I knew I wasn't going to win, but I thought, let's see if I can do it. And just talking just now, there's a chap called Paul. Where are you, Paul? Paul, are you here? Over there. He's the problem. I had a photograph with him, me the pretender. He did the MDS as well, but he did it properly, and I'm just, anyway, blah, blah. So, but you know what I've learned? It's amazing, the grace of God, no matter what you're facing, if you don't give up. The Bible says He will never allow you to face anything too big for you. I don't know what's going on in your life now, beautiful people. God is there. Don't give up. He's promised to take you through. And this video clip now is just a reminder that if you persevere, I hope I never get closer to hell than I experienced running. I'm talking about 150 miles through the desert with feet like that. Seriously uncomfortable. But anyway, so this video clip I'm running now was what it was like. Just a reminder, if you don't give up. And by the way, if you think I'm special, my wife is here somewhere, and you can talk to her afterwards, and she'll tell you nothing special about him at all. You know, in fact, as all of us men know, behind every successful man, there's a surprised woman. Isn't that right? You know, and she's very surprised. So anyway, this video clip now, I'm dedicating to those of you going through a hard time. A bit of volume, thank you.
Slide 31.
A nightly ritual for most runners, a visit to the dreaded medic tent.
It's broken over 3 sides all the way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just flat. So just taking that.
You cut the top of the blister off and put antiseptic on. It's less liable to go septic that way. And they're very good at it. That's all right.
Only 2 weeks ago, Miles' feet were already in a mess. He'd been using white spirit to harden his soles for the desert, but a shop assistant had given him acetone instead. Not being able to read the label, he'd used it and burnt off several layers of skin.
Oh, that's quite sore there, so.
With 5 days still to go, a trip to the medic tent and possible elimination had to be faced.
Swinging right, Miles. I can see the finish.
For Miles and John, the proof that they too have conquered the toughest foot race on earth.
It's good to be here.
You got your medal?
I got it. Very heavy. We don't have to run with that, I hope.
Yeah. Superstar.
So another big thing I've learned apart from persevering is you've got to enjoy life. This is me at the bottom of the Red Sea. Excuse me, the chap in the wheelchair, paralyzed, no legs. It's the only photograph in the world of a blind man pushing a paralyzed man in his wheelchair along the bottom of the Red Sea using my white stick to find the way, you know. Why did we do it? We just did it for fun. Thank you. And listen, didn't you damage the wheelchair? No, we destroyed the wheelchair, but made a great picture. So here's the thought. And all of you have got that little picture on your seat somewhere there. Listen, people think that disability lowers your quality of life. Here's a blind chap and a chap paralyzed, no legs, having the time of their life. He also, by the way, drives his own car with hand controls. Mike is his name. Not a little Ford Focus. He drives a 4.8-litre V12 Ferrari. He's got serious attitude. It's not what happens to you in life. It's what you do with what happens to you in life. You've got to have a lot of fun. And you people, you know, the Bible says, he who sits in the heavens laughs. He wants you to have a sense of humor. It's good for you to just put your face up and let the sun go on your face and laugh at everything. You know, God is bigger than everything that I can face. So, a great thing. And so, big thing I want to say to you, when opportunities come your way, a little while ago, a couple of years ago now, I was asked if I'd like to do the New York Marathon. I'd done no running for 7 years. It was 2 weeks before the marathon, damaged ligaments. So the obvious thing, no training. 2 weeks ago, yes, let's go and do it, you know. You know what I've learned? The answer to how is yes. How on earth? Do you know God wants you to get out there and just see what could happen with him? And a lot of people think, a lot of people are living in the past or the future. Someone told me back in Zimbabwe that all of us, he said, when Jesus was crucified, there was a thief crucified on either side of him. I said, yes, I know that. He said, Miles, every one of us here have got a thief on either side of us trying to rob us of our peace from today. One are the regrets of yesterday, and the other is the fears about tomorrow. So, regrets of yesterday. How many of you here, maybe some of you are thinking, I shouldn't even be here. I'll never go into a church, but this is like a, university place. But I'm so dirty. God can never use me, things that have happened in my past, We were singing just now that beautiful song, Amazing Grace, I grew up in Zimbabwe in Africa. Couple of centuries ago, they used to take the slaves, people, traders used to come and run and round up people, men and women and children, put them on ships, like slabs of meat and take them all the way to America, slaves, horrific, evil people. And I read a book about one particular slaver, and he couldn't sleep. He was a slave captain, very wealthy, making a lot of money, and down below the stench of all these slaves. And there was a mother with a little baby, and the baby had a high temperature, crying and crying and crying, and he couldn't get to sleep. And he went down in a rage, he ripped the baby away from the mother's breast and threw it over the side into the ocean. That's how evil they were. You know what that man's name was? His name was John. I think his second name was Newton. And he ended up writing a song called Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace. That man, you say, I'm too dirty. You don't understand. I'm in a cesspit in my life, You know what it says in the Old Testament, in the book of Isaiah? Come now, says God, let us reason together. Though your sins be as red as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. The Hebrew word there for scarlet is the word for menstrual cloths. In those days they didn't have fancy adverts like on the telly. Women had to just use a cloth, Though your sins be like menstrual cloths. This is God speaking. God knows what it is to reach down into a cesspit and say, I love you, you beautiful creature. You don't have to do anything. I just love you as you are. And you're here, and he loves you. Oh, he died on the cross for you, He made this universe. He spoke it into existence. And you say, Miles, I can't, I'm here, not run a marathon, not, This is a life, your whole future life, running this beautiful thing, Come, let us run this race with perseverance. There's a God who loves you as you are. He knows the worst in you, and he loves you the best. I tell you what, when I was a teenager, somebody told me that scared the pants of me. He knows everything about me. I'm a goner. I'm heading for hell. But he loves me the best. How can you love me when you know all about me? I don't know. You parents with kids, you don't love them because they're good. You just love them because they're your kids. And you've got a heavenly Father who's here, and the Spirit of God is here saying, I love you. I don't care how filthy you are. I'm going to reach down. I'm going to pick you up, and you're going to be snow and beautiful. I'm going to clothe you in righteousness. And all you got to do is say yes to the grace of God. So anyway, I did the race. It was absolutely useless. It took me 6.5 hours, 6 weeks today. I'm running the Ho Chi Minh Marathon in Vietnam, and I only started training a couple of days ago. So I'm not going to win, but you know what? Life is a beautiful gift every day, and God just wants you to say yes. And the person has taught me so much about, I suppose, friendship and love. This chap called John, he's my best friend. He's been with me through all the things I've done. He actually says he's not my best friend. He says he's my only friend because nobody else likes me, And in fact, because we've been through some hard times, he says the day that he met me, that was the day that God cursed his life. I mean, that's not nice. And it's only because we've nearly died a few times. Anyway, blah, blah. So, but you know what? When in Antarctica, I'd never skied on snow. People said you're irresponsible. But you know what? We were traveling faster to the South Pole than any other expedition that had taken that route, despite having a blind man who'd never been on snow before and whatever. But after 37 days, I got frostbite in my fingertips, and I had to be flown back to the UK for treatment. Couldn't carry on. I would have been the first person from any country in Africa, blind or not, to manhauled a sledge 1,200 kilometers to the pole. But anyway, I had to pull out at that stage. But John has been with me, going around the Malaysian circuit shouting things. If we get things wrong, we're going to die. It's not just a matter of friendship. But he carried on to the pole without me. And John said, do you want me to fly back to the UK? And I said, no, please carry on with these other two guys at the South Pole. If you can reach the South Pole, we can put a flag in. I had a white stick here, I had a flag on it. We can raise a lot of money for these blind kids. John said, if you want me to, I will. How many of you here have got such a good friend in your life that they would be willing to go to the ends of the earth for you? That's what John did for me. And this last video clip is just a reminder that life is all about friendship, caring for one another, like Jesus says, we're his friends. So this video clip is a reminder of caring for the people around you. Here we go.
We've got a crevassed area to start with, I understand. We'll be on skis most of the time, and using ski poles to help us with our pace, etc. A lot of it is going to be mental. I think it's a long time to slog 8 or 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. Day one of the actual expedition, and I think we're going to take it one day at a time. That's the way to conquer most things.
I think we now know how enormous this task is. And it's just obscene, really. The routine we got into is an hour and a half walking and then a quarter of an hour break, which means that in an hour and 3/4, which is the same time as it takes to get on a train from Derby and go down to London, we've done that 6 times today. And all that time it's like sitting on a train with no one to talk to, no book to read, not being able to sleep. And you just got to fill your mind with something the whole time. It's really bizarre. So all that time, it's just trying to occupy your mind and keep your mind going. And then not only that, it's about -30, and you're pulling a sledge behind you as well.
1 or 2 toes I can do without, but my hands are my life. They're my eyes. This lack of feeling started in my fingertips fairly soon after we left.
It isn't the end of life just because you're going home now. You can go home with your head high. Done a lot for the RNIB, done a lot for yourself, done a lot for friends around. So,
yeah, if I can't make it to the pole, then I'm asking you to take the flag for the Royal National Institute for the Blind.
Well, it's our great privilege this morning to welcome a very, very special guest with us this day. Some of you, I know, heard him this morning on Radio Devon, sharing some of his story, some of his adventures that he has been on over the years. And I first met Miles quite a number of years ago when I was leading a church in Derby, in the East Midlands, and Miles and his family were a part of that church. And it's been a great joy to see the way that he has retained an adventure spirit. Let me tell you something about Miles. Miles is a blind adventurer who has, since the age of 50, set numerous world records. Since the age of 50. Undertaken extreme events. Since then, he has undertaken extreme events across all 7 continents of our world in the fields of mountaineering, desert and polar ultramarathons. I didn't even know there was such a thing as an ultramarathon. I thought a marathon was crazy. Powerboat racing, scuba diving, motor racing, long distance aerobatic and supersonic flying, amongst other achievements. He's had the privilege of speaking at over 1,200 corporate events in 72 countries across the world to date. And he is here to remind us today that we too can live our dreams, because the only limits in our lives are those we accept ourselves. Let's put our hands together and welcome Miles Hilton-Barber.
Well, isn't it interesting? What can God do, in a place like this? We learned just now about a lady with a diaphragm paralyzed, an ex-alcoholic. Someone said, do you believe Jesus can turn water into wine? He said, I don't know about that, but he turned beer into furniture. And what he tell you, whether you can live your dreams or not, because the only limits in your life are the ones that you accept yourself. God bless you all. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.